All right, hi, my name is Tom O'Key. I'm with the Southern California Desert Video Astronomers out of Joshua Tree, California. We're here in Tucson, Arizona, enjoying the Arizona Science and Astronomy Expo, the first inaugural meeting of a bunch of astronomy enthusiasts here at the Tucson Convention Center. And it's the 10th and 11th weekend of November 2012. And I'm here with a bunch of distinguished guests and friends that are all part of a group known as the International Dark Skies Association. This group is celebrating its 25th year?
2013.
In 2013, of being an organization that started right here in Tucson. The idea was that skies were becoming light polluted, and someone decided they were going to do something about that. And so 25 years ago, a group was formed that's known as the IDA. And the IDA is now spread around the world. We at SCDVA are very pleased because we've become a chapter of this group. We represent the high deserts region of San Bernardino County, California, and we're here on our first real journey to visit with these fine folks, and I want to introduce them. To my right here is Bob Parks,
Martin Morgan Taylor,
Tim Hunter,
Chris Monrad,
Dave Ingram,
Connie Walker,
Mike Simmons,
Scott Cardell.
Bill Wren.
Wonderful, and these folks are all represent different areas. In other words, not only are we partly from Tucson, but we've got folks here who are from England, from Texas, from Tucson. Mike's from Agoura Hills in California, but you represent the world, don't you?
well, I'm from Earth.
You're from Earth. Connie, Dave. Dave's from Washington,
The state.
the state of Washington.
not this one. Chris Monrad from Tucson.
From Tucson, and Tim lives
Tim
in
from
Tucson. And Martin, you live in what part of England?
Well, I'm from the United Kingdom and I live in Leicester, which is in the centre
Okay.
of England.
Tim, would you please tell us how you came up with this idea and started the IDA?
Well, it was sort of self-serving. I've been an amateur astronomer literally since 1950. And I was always going to have a nice big telescope and dark sky spot. In 1985, I bought 20 acres of land where I had an observatory at this time. And I started researching what the laws were protecting lighting. And about that time, the hospital that I worked at changed their lighting, and it was unshielded low-pressure sodium lights. It was a gas because they were all unshielded. And I complained to the hospital director. He said, well, the astronomers recommend it because low-pressure sodium is good for astronomy. I said, well, not for amateur astronomy. And so I went over and talked to Dave Crawford, who was head of the dark sky office at Kidd Peak, introduced myself, and complained about the lights. And he said, well, there's no other fixtures around. I said, well, this is silly. We had these discussions, started exchanging slides, became pretty good buddies, and one day I said, you know, the lighting situation is really terrible in this country, and the laws are fairly weak. We got to do something about that. And that sort of one thing led to another. But it was sort of, to be honest, self-serving in the sense I was trying to protect my own stuff, and then the more I got into it, I realized, boy, what a mess this is. And the one thing I'm very proud about is the organization's far outgrown its founders, and it's on its own, and I felt in some ways it's left me behind. That's just wonderful.
Do you feel like at this point what you started sort of filled a vacuum and sort of sucked itself into itself? I mean, was this a need that really was
Oh, I think it
waiting
absolutely
for
was
its
a
time?
need, and I think because of Dave's tremendous hard work, professional astronomer, his idea that we have to coordinate our activities with the lighting community, we have to give people solutions, not problems. That's what made it a potential success. It was just some people saying you should turn off your lights, we would never succeeded. And his wife, Mary, who just recently died, was a dear lady. She was the secretary and treasurer for years. And so they did the sweat and blood from them pretty much ran for many, many years. But now it's become a very viable organization. It's got great leadership, and it's gone beyond us. I think we're at the verge of, if things happen correctly, and if we can get handles on the new solid-state lighting, we have a chance to actually truly reduce lumen levels in big urban areas. May or may not happen, but I think it's truly within reach. And I feel very good about that.
You know, the group has many accomplishments. You wouldn't believe on an international level how many places are becoming dark sky places or dark sky parks or have IDA approval. It's literally spread around the world as being a very serious thing to understand the impact of light pollution on life and the well-being of our planet. Now, Bob, you're the executive director over the whole entire group now, and this is a Tucson-based group, so you're right at home right now.
Actually, no, I'm in Washington, D.C.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how long you've been involved and how you became associated with the IDA?
Well, I've been associated with them for about 12 years. My first experience with them was on the East Coast, and found out, Bob Gent was a longtime board member and volunteer, and he was in the same astronomy club I was, and recruited me. And I've been a member for about 13 years, and about 3 years ago we opened an office in DC for public affairs and government affairs, and I started that. And I'm still in DC, but I've become the executive director, and I work with Scott, who's the managing director out here.
Now, that's a new post for you, Scott, 'cause I actually met you working at Mount Palomar some time ago, and now
Yeah.
you've become a family member of IDA. How do you like it, and is this your future?
How do I like it? Well, what choice do I have? No. In my role at Palomar, part of what I needed to do there was to speak for the observatory about lighting issues and to speak to the community and the local government. So I was already very intimately involved in the discussion and coming to IDA meetings and that kind of thing. And when the opportunity arose to come to Tucson, which is my hometown, so to return to Tucson and to work on this topic, which I'm already passionate about, it seemed like a really good choice.
Now, you told me a story just recently about how you actually just did an IDA talk to the club you actually were a member of when you were a young kid.
Yeah, I got to give a talk to the Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association, and I was in that club when I was in high school. And to come back, in fact, Tim introduced me, so that was nice. This is back in August. To come back to give a talk to TAAA, the club where I was at when, Bart Bach gave a talk, and legends in my mind and elsewhere, was just a nice moment for me, a proud moment for me.
Yeah, now sitting next to you is Mike Simmons, who's the president of the Astronomers Without Borders, which is also a fledgling group that is growing like crazy. I mean, I see lots of information about your group. Can you tell us a little bit about your group and your association with IDA?
Well, Astronomers Without Borders really is a new organization. It doesn't give that impression because it has grown like crazy, and it's become very big. And the basic idea is to connect people around the world through our common interest or common passion in the night sky. We all share the same sky. When we travel around, you look up, and if you're at the same latitude, it's identical. And it's something that allows us to talk to each other on a common ground that doesn't have anything to do with other issues that can cause problems. There are no borders in the sky, and when we look up, we really don't have any either. And it's just worked immensely well, connecting people in different countries. We have the opportunity to share the wealth that we have here of knowledge and resources with people in other places where they're not nearly so fortunate. And in the process, we learn a lot about other people in other countries and vice versa. And that's always a good thing on this planet. And that's something that we're doing with IDA now. IDA has a new program that will involve astronomy clubs, reaching out to the community, not just for astronomy outreach, but also talking about the issues about loss of the starry sky, what we're losing in terms of our culture, scientifically, many things. And we're going to help try and expand that out through the global community that we've developed.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there's some people here are just worker bees, if you will, other chapter leaders, and Dave is one of them. Dave is from Washington State, and you've been in this about a dozen years, you said?
Close to a dozen.
And now you're chapter leader in Washington.
Right.
Now, I met you at the PASS show, the Pasadena Astronomy and Telescope
Sure.
show, about a month and a half ago. And can you tell us a little bit about your experience with astronomy and how you've become involved?
Well, I was mentored as far as the IDA is concerned by a collaborator of Dave Crawford and Tim's, Dr. Woody Sullivan. And Woody Sullivan is a professor and the director of astrobiology at the University of Washington. And Woody put together the iconic picture of the entire world with a couple of geography student majors from the University of Washington on his kitchen table. And I believe that became the iconic image that IDA picked up and put on t-shirts and everything else. And Woody has been in radio telescope astronomy for a long time. but when he heard of my interest, he pushed me toward the IDA. And so he's continued to encourage me to do that. And so he's kind of the perpetuation of the generations, I think. I really appreciate Woody. Woody was mentored by Frank Drake. Many of us know him in SETI. So I think that's kind of a nice lineage at least through the Washington State area. So.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing here so far is everybody kind of has a root in amateur astronomy. You're doing outreach astronomy in your Washington hometown area, isn't that what you do?
Right, the 4-state area, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. And I just came back from Glacier, where I was about 2 months at Glacier and saw about 7,000 visitors at Glacier, doing outreach at Glacier. So.
It's a very small thing to do. A few states, thousands of people.
4
My
states.
goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Sitting over next to Bob here is Martin. And Martin, you're from the UK.
I am, yes.
Can you tell us about when you became familiar with IDA and how you became involved?
It was about 6 years ago, and Bob Gent actually gifted me a year's membership. So I got involved, got interested, and I mean, I've been trying to sort of tackle light pollution in the UK for about 12 years. Heard about IDA, got in touch with Bob, and he gifted me this membership, and I've been involved ever since. So there we go.
And today you were awarded a small token of appreciation for your involvement, I saw, and that was very nice.
Well, that was winning the door prize. That was winning a telescope, but because I'm on a plane, I can't really take it back with me. So I got a nice poster.
Chris, you are actually in the lighting business.
Yes, I'm a professional electrical engineer, and I do spend a lot of time with lighting design and lighting application. My father met Dr. Crawford back in the mid-70s and helped to produce the first outdoor lighting code for the city of Tucson. So protection of the night skies from the professional lighting side runs very deep in my family. And I joined the board of IDA back in 1994. So I've seen IDA grow. I've seen IDA change the lighting industry in many respects, and it's been both challenging and rewarding in that the lighting industry has a lot of inertia, and it's not in a positive way. It's a very slow to move, slow to react industry. And through the persistence of Dr. Crawford and Tim pushing us all along, we're able to build some bridges with the Illuminating Engineering Society and the CIE, the International Lighting Commission, as well as the Australia-New Zealand Illuminating Engineering Society. This is, like you say, very global. The Japanese Illuminating Engineering Society, the Indian Illuminating Engineering Society. So we've made inroads around the world to where the practice of lighting is done with much more care with respect to protection of the night skies and energy efficiency programs.
Yeah, now I listened to your talk. Now, just so everyone knows, we're actually at the annual general meeting of the International Dark Skies Association, and we just got through with a full day of talks and hoopla that we had, fun, and talking with friends and people and meeting everybody. And you gave a presentation, and I want to tell you that I was really moved by your enthusiasm, because not only did you really achieve some really great things based on the program you presented, you were very enthusiastic about it, and you actually, I think, are going to be part of that spreading of the news that's going to bring people in. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm gratified to hear that you picked up on my enthusiasm. Just being reelected to the board of IDA for another 3-year term, I think I'll have 19 years on the board when I move off, or if I move off.
You're never moving on. You're stuck. Longest serving board member at this point, for sure.
I am invigorated to marshal through the next wave of IDA tenants throughout the lighting industry, largely in the solid state application area. It's fraught with pitfalls in that if solid state lighting is not implemented properly, as Bob said, we're going to have to live with a lot of bad lighting installations for the next 30 years, given their lifespans and their capital costs. So while IDA, I'd say, hit a pivot point maybe a decade ago, I think we're in another major pivot point here where we can make things a lot better for the future, and if we fail, I think we'll all be very disappointed.
Now, coming from the other end of the country,
I'm from McDonald Observatory.
you're from
Yes.
McDonald Observatory. Well, tell us about yourself and what brought you to this, this meeting today.
I'm an amateur astronomer. I'm fortunate enough to be employed by a professional observatory, McDonald, which is a lifetime member of the IDA. And I have basically been the representative of McDonald Observatory at the IDA meetings for about 22 years now. And we've had good success in West Texas keeping the skies dark, and hope to continue with that. And with these people's help, I think we're going to succeed.
Well, Big Bend just became a dark sky park, didn't it, national park? And one of the other speakers who was here today was a fellow from the national park, a fellow named Kevin, and he's from the Bryce National Park.
Bryce
And they're,
Canyon.
yeah, and they're very excited, you know, the national park has become very involved in this effort as well. They realize the value of darkness and natural light and the impact of the flora and fauna that live in the parks, and their mandate, of course, is to preserve and protect that flora and fauna. And now, coming into the 2nd century, it sounds like they're about ready to commit that that's a major thing, and you guys had a lot to do with that, didn't you?
Well, I think our awareness program brought them along, but it's been their initiative to make it part of their mandate.
Now, this group also does an awful lot of science. They're involved in all levels of being able to be educated about what the subject's about. It's just not a bunch of amateur astronomers wanting to see the sky. It's really a bunch of people who realize they've stumbled into something that's probably one of the most significant things that may actually have been affecting humanity for the whole last century. Okay, well, I'm going to turn to Bob. Bob had a point.
Well, we've been blessed in the entire history of the organization. We've never been a large organization, but we are able to draw on experts from fields as far ranging as medical science to light pollution, you know, study of how it spreads, its atmospheric content. We have, you know, education people. Connie's from NOAO. We've got, historically through the years, we just are drawing people with experience and expertise that we could never have internally, which makes IDA seem bigger than it actually is. And it's been our legacy, and we continue to draw people, you know, that are focused on making things better, and they're willing to help us.
Well, now, I think maybe probably 10 times today, Connie, I saw people go, Connie, and you came running, and you had answers, and you were bringing solutions. And so tell us about your involvement with IDA and the organization that you're with.
Well, I'm from the National Optical Astronomy Observatory here, headquartered here in Tucson. And I'm an astronomer there that's lucky enough to do education outreach. And so I've been doing that for the past 10 years. In some way, you cannot be an astronomer without knowing about IDA. I mean, it's like sacrilegious not to know about IDA and all the great work that they do. And I was actually at my boss's house one evening, and he invited me in to meet the rest of the committee, the education committee, like 10 years ago. And I thought to myself, wow, it would be really, really nice to be able to get involved with their education committee at some point. And then the opportunity came up a few years back. And that's how I got initiated into being sort of closer to the IDA and working with them more closely. And so just like a couple of years ago, they asked me to run for the board of directors, and I'm on it now too. So, but the last year has been working on that planetarium, what they call public service announcement, because it's just very short, it's just 6 minutes long, but it has all the aspects you can think about that light pollution affects. Not just your right to see the night sky or the detrimental effects it has on astronomical research, but its effects on human health, wildlife, safety, energy issues, cost. And I think it's a very well done planetarium show for either planetarium or actually classroom. And it's done by Loch Ness Productions.
So we have high hopes that this can spread the message to a whole new group. I mean, potentially 500,000 people a year could see this. It'll be given away free and used as an educational item for any planetarium that wants to run it. We're working to translate it into as many different languages as we can and spread it around the globe, because it feeds our core mission, which is raising awareness.
Now, your talk today really addressed that and the idea that the future has some really defined goals as far as the organization goes, and they're all great. I wonder, you know, looking into the future, when all this gets fixed and everybody looks back, say 100 years in the past, and thinks about you guys in this group that started all this and realizes you were right, that these cancers, that these things, that the world really should have got busy on this a lot earlier. And thank God you guys came along when you did. I mean, do you see that being a real realization that someone someday will think that?
Well, we hope to, go out of business as soon as we possibly can.
No, one statement was made today, and this is one of those situations where the simplest solution in the world costs nothing. In fact, it actually saves you money. All you got to do is just turn off a light. That's all you got to do. Isn't it right?
It's the easiest environmental issue I know of. You can fix this problem overnight if we wanted to do it. It's just getting the awareness to the people so that everybody understands it's a win-win.
And it's,
Flip of a switch.
Yeah, simple as
but it's not just turning off all the lights, because we want to make sure that for lights that are needed, you're using responsible lighting that's actually better visibility, less glare, less light trespass, less light into the sky. So you're going to save money, still keep people having the light that they need to have. But
Well, Chris
just
pointed
doing
it
it
out
the
very
right
well
way.
today, where he's showing where there was lights that were being traded out for, what, 90% was the trade-off? Is that what I was hearing, that you were able to save 90%?
Yeah, with proper infrastructure and control schemes, you can save 90% of your energy costs over a conventional lighting system.
And you were trading lights out in Bryce, that you said.
Well, we did. Big Bend, Bill was involved with Big Bend National Park. They had a retrofit there done, several years ago, and they estimate they reduced their energy bill by 90% as well. I mean, LED technology, like Chris was saying, it has the potential to do such good for our cause, as long as we do it in the right way. And energy savings is what's going to bring a lot of people to the cause, because they may not care that much about dark skies, but everybody cares about wasting electricity, wasting money at this point. So we need to get that word out.
In fact, it goes to the point where today we learned from another member that in burning coal you use water. And now water actually becomes one of the resources that's being wasted as well.
Along with air pollution, because the power plant that's generating it is generating air pollution, and it's generating greenhouse gases. So you have CO2 and global warming. I mean, fixing this problem helps, a lot of aspects.
It's a humanitarian effort, isn't it? Really. Well, I know personally our group is very pleased to be part of this group. The reason for this interview was just really to highlight some of the people that I've come to meet, that we know from our group, that we respect, that we're pleased to be involved with, that I know this cause is really a great cause. And so I just wanted to take a moment. I want to thank you all. Would you all like to just be able to say one last thing before we...
Well, I'd like to say, Tom, we're glad to have you on the team.
Oh,
And the fact that you're taking the time to do this, and Leonard behind the camera there, to help get the word out to others.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that, Scott. And we're pleased to be part of this. Our amateur astronomer outreach that we do in Joshua Tree started out just kind of showing people stars in the park. I had no idea that 6 years ago, when we started, that now we'd be here with you folks, and it's really terrific. I want to thank you all for a great time.
Yeah, please visit darksky.org, become a member. We need all the support we can get.
That's right. Members, join the IDA. That's what I got to say. Thank you, Leonard Holmberg.